So this is going to be the first of 3 parts of the splendid instructions to the mind by Srila Raghunatha Goswami. And what we're presenting here, we also have a new translation of this book. And we've brought some from India. And so we're able to offer them to you for only $15. You can also buy them on Amazon and get them shipped, but then it's going to cost you probably about $40 or $50. So we have brought them here for you if you'd like. We just have a very limited quantity that one devotee was willing to bring on a plane from India. So if you'd like one at the end of the presentation, they will be available. And we have here the original 12 verses of Raghunatha Goswami along with commentary by Bhaktivedanta Thakur. We have 120 new black and white drawings from 7 different international artists. And then we also have 12 full-color paintings, also as meditations on the book. In this book we have never before published Bhaktivedanta Thakur's Bengali songs on the Manah-siksa. He wrote 1 song for each of the verses. In addition, we did something which we didn't realize had never been done before until after we did it. And that was, in addition to Bhaktivinoda's prose commentary and songs, we also have the commentary of contemporary Vaishnavas. So we have a commentary of Jayadvaita Swami, Sachinandan Swami, Bhaktivedanta Swami, Shivaram Swami, Sachinandan Swami, Jayadvaita Swami, Bhaktivedanta Swami are also in this book. So as I said, we just have a very limited quantity here, just what a devotee was willing to bring on an airplane from India. So, and they're just 15. So if you'd like one, we will have them available at the end of the session. And we are going to be doing, Krishna willing, some interactive activities. So especially tomorrow and the next day, if you can bring paper and pencil or pen, and especially on the last day, on Friday, if you can bring a songbook with you. If you have, I don't know if the temple has quantities of Vaishnava songbooks, but if you have a copy of the Vaishnava songbook, we'll be doing some activities with the songs. Okay, so why is this book important? There we go. Well, there's many reasons, but we're going to focus particularly on 2. The first is that Bhaktivedanta Thakur says that this book by Raghunatha Goswami is a Paddhati. Pada means step and hati means progress. So this book is a step-by-step guide to attaining spontaneous love for Krishna in Vrindavan. Now, Bhaktivedanta Thakur specifically says that Rupa Goswami tells us what we should do, but it's only Raghunatha Goswami who tells us how we should do it. And that's quite an extraordinary statement. This Śrīmad gets into the psychology of bhakti. Raghunatha Goswami is telling us how our inner consciousness, our inner psychology will change and develop as we go through the process of bhakti. Now, although this is a Paddhati for spontaneous devotion, for attainment of spontaneous devotion, every one of the steps here are also applicable to the beginners. So it's really a very amazing book. It doesn't have any kinds of intimate lila, which is not recommended for beginners. And I have found that although certainly Raghunatha Goswami intended this for the serious practitioner, that I have found that everybody is able to benefit from it, even from the later verses, because it's going in a very step-by-step fashion. It's also very important for our ISKCON society as a whole, and we were very happy that we were able to publish this book in the year of ISKCON's 50th anniversary. Some of you may know that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was criticized for not having taught the path of spontaneous love. He was, some of his critics, especially some Radhakund Babajis, said, oh, he's only teaching the path of regulative devotion. And the same criticism was leveled at Srila Prabhupada. In fact, to this day, we find that people periodically leave our ISKCON society because they say, oh, I want something higher. And many times they'll take shelter of some Babaji at Radhakund and so forth. So the Sri Manah-siksa establishes very clearly that the way that Srila Prabhupada taught and Bhaktisiddhanta's taught is completely in line with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's process of spontaneous devotion. Now, in the book, we have a whole chapter dedicated to this. It was actually Devi Swami who insisted. He said, if you publish this book, you must have a chapter dedicated to this particular topic. So we'll be touching on this topic very briefly here in this seminar in verse 3, but if you want to go more into depth, I suggest that you study the chapter. So each verse in Manah-siksa is a step on the path. It's a consecutive Paddhati. At the same time, we can divide Manah-siksa into three main parts. So the first three verses deal with qualification and orientation. The next four verses deal with obstacles and how to overcome them. The next four verses deal with steps in perfection. And the last verse is a benediction. So the benediction that's given in Sri Manah-siksa is that if we sing these verses with a sweet voice, trying to understand their meanings, that we will attain love for Radha Krishna in Vrindavan. So does that sound good? Everybody into that? Okay. So what we're going to do then, as we go through this presentation, is we'll sing the verses, and I'd like us to sing them all together. Instead of call and response, we'll sing them together. It's to the tune of Jagannathastakam, but we won't change the last line. Then we can also recite the English together. So we're going to start our first step, which deals mostly with our qualification, our consciousness taking up the path. So if we can sing all together. Guru goste gostala ishu sujane bhusuragane swamantre shrinamni vrajanava yuva dvandva sharane saradambam hitva Kururatim apurvam atitaram Aye swantar bratas chatubir abhiyache dritapadaha. All together? Oh dear mine. Oh dear brother. Oh mine. Can I have some water? Having given up all pride, please develop unprecedented. Everyone together. Oh dear brother. Oh mine. Having given up all pride, excessive attachment to Sri Guru, to Sri Vrindavan, the abode of cows, to the devotee residents of Vrindavana, to all the devotees on this planet, to the confidential mantra given by Sri Guru, to the holy names of Sri Sri Radha Krishna, and to the process of surrendering to the fresh youthful couple of Raja. Holding your feet, I beseech you with sweet words. So here you'll notice the word rati. Rati means attachment. Anyone know who the personality Rati is? Who's the personality named Rati? Yes?
The wife of Cupid?
Yes, the wife of Cupid. So she's a personality of great attachment. And here he's asking us not only for Rati, but for Rati apurvam atitaram, to have unprecedented and excessive attachment. Unprecedented because the attachment Raghunatha Goswami is asking us to have is not like that seen in this world. We don't really have a precedent in our worldly life for this kind of attachment. It's very significant that Raghunatha Goswami starts his Paddhati with attachment. Bhakti is the path not of detachment, but of attachment. We become detached from matter by becoming attached to Krishna. It's also very significant that before getting into the obstacles in the later verses, Raghunatha Goswami starts us off with attachment, so that our reason for getting rid of our obstacles, our reason for overcoming our difficulties, is our attachment. And we may be surprised because we may think of spiritual life as a path of detachment, as a path of equanimity, So what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita we should be equipoised about?
Dualities.
Okay, the dualities, like which ones?
Happiness and sorrow.
Happiness and sorrow, what else?
Victory and defeat.
Victory and defeat, what else?
Hot and cold.
Hot and cold.
Pleasure and pain.
Pleasure and pain, okay. What else?
Fame and infamy.
Fame and infamy.
Success and failure.
Thank you so much. Success and failure, yes, what else?
Death and birth.
Death and birth, honor and dishonor, friends, enemies, neutral. So we read that and we think, oh, spiritual life is about this equanimity. But the way that we become equipoised toward the material is by becoming attached to the spiritual. And here you see Raghunatha Goswami is giving us a list of where we should put this attachment. Bhaktivedanta in his commentary says, if we try to become attached alone to Krishna and not to the various personalities and processes mentioned here, we will not be successful. The first word in Sri Manah-siksa is guru. Here you see, this is one of the 120 black and white illustrations we have in the book. So the black and white illustrations and the color illustrations we will be using in this presentation. So Raghunatha Goswami says we should be attached to guru. And Bhaktivedanta in his commentary says this means the Diksha guru, the Shiksha guru, anyone who helps us on the path. Now significantly, Bhaktivedanta Thakur says in his commentary that we shouldn't see the guru just as a saintly person, just as the Acharya, but also as our friend. So I know the first time that I met Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada was preaching on the Vyasa-san and speaking very formally as the Acharya. And it was a wonderful experience hearing from Srila Prabhupada, hearing him speak the Bhagavatam class. And I had a sense that hearing Srila Prabhupada speaking, I mean, I was standing just to Srila Prabhupada's left, fanning him throughout the class, was not any different than hearing Srila Prabhupada speak on a recording. But it was very formal. Prabhupada was there as a saintly person, as the Acharya. And we were very lucky that later that morning, my family and I got to meet Srila Prabhupada in his room in a very personal way. So although the Guru certainly is a saintly person, the Guru is also our friend. In fact, Srila Prabhupada would sign his letters, how? Ever well-wisher. And as Prahladananda Swami likes to point out, he would also sign them. I hope this meets you in good health. So Prabhupada was our well-wisher not only spiritually, but even for our physical well-being. Why is it important to see the Guru as our friend? Because without this relationship of friendship, we're not going to really trust those who advise us, isn't it? Therefore, the 7th canto says that the disciple and Guru should have a great bond of love. And Srila Prabhupada says, unless we have love, why would we let someone else control our life? Why would we voluntarily submit our lives to another person? After all, even if someone is very expert, if we don't trust that they care about us, then we may think that they might use their expertise to exploit us. Doesn't this happen in the world? Right? And if somebody is not expert and just loves us, they may mislead us with good intentions. So in order for us to really follow someone, we have to trust not only that they have realization, but also that there's this relationship. Raghunatha Goswami says we should have great attachment for the process of surrendering to the lotus feet of the divine couple. Bhaktivedanta Thakur mentions in his commentary that this implies a one-pointedness to the feet of the divine couple. And please keep that thought in mind because we'll get to it in the next verse. But love for the process of surrender. So many times we complain about the process of surrender. Oh, now I got to surrender to Krishna. Right? Oh, you know, I had some really heavy purification. Right? What is it that we have to surrender, my dear friends? What is it that we're actually surrendering? Our what?
Mind.
Surrendering our mind, okay. What specifically? Okay, well, the mind is already Krishna's, and the body's already Krishna's, the life air is already Krishna's, so what are we surrendering? Our false ego. We're surrendering something that's false, and that's giving us nothing but trouble. But we don't like to do that, right? How do we know we don't like to do that? Whenever somebody comes up to us and says, "You made a mistake." What? So this having great attachment for the process of surrender is, "Oh, you're helping me surrender my false ego." Right? When somebody criticizes us, when somebody points out our mistakes, when somebody points out our attachments, when somebody offends us, when someone insults us, when somebody disrespects us, wow, I get an opportunity to surrender my false ego. So attachment for the process of surrender. And attachment for the holy places, particularly Vrindavan, the land of cows. So if we love Krishna, we're going to love his place. Most of us love our own place, isn't it? We love our own homeland, our ancestral land, or our house, or our flat, or our room. Right? But if we love Krishna, we will love his place. Not only, of course, in India, but all holy places. This is also Vrindavan. If here is Radha and Krishna, then Vrindavan must also be here, right? Isn't it? And the holy place we make in our room or in our home. Sometimes when I visit people's homes, I see that they're worshiping the deity so nicely, but the place where they're worshiping the deity is dirty. We've seen this, right? They're doing their puja, but you run your finger along it and it's black, or it's full of little dead flower petals and incense ashes and things like this. And this means that when we come to a holy place, we come with the mood of serving not only the Lord there, but the Lord's place. So when we come to the temple here, for example, we don't just want to say, "I'm going to offer flowers to the deities and I'm going to sing for the deities," but you do some service for the place, to clean the temple, to do something to help the temple itself, help us build a new kitchen here and so forth, to have love for the place. We see the opposite of this mentality, especially in many holy places in India. Isn't that a fact? People come there to get blessings. How many of you have been to holy places in India? Okay. So you see people go there, "Oh, I'm going to get some blessings from the Lord. I'm going to get my desires fulfilled." And then what do they do to the holy place? They trash it. Have you seen this? Yeah. I saw this most poignantly in Ujjain, the one time I visited. So there's a holy river there, and I was asking what kind of fruit is on the trees. Very strange fruit growing on the trees that are lining the riverbanks. And some of the devotees there said, "Oh, Urmila, this is not fruit." They said, "Come, we'll show you." So on the bank of the river, there were many, many places where there were brahmanas who were making offerings to the river. So people come and they want, they want a child, or they want money, or they want to find a spouse, or they want to find a job, or they want to pass their exams, or they want to get free of a disease, or something like that. So they go to one of these brahmanas and they pay some money, and the brahmana makes an offering to the river. And then what do they do after they make the offering to the river? They take the paraphernalia and what do they do with it? They throw it in the river. So the offering paraphernalia was made out of woven fibers, like some kind of wicker, and then little unbaked clay cups in which they had the different flowers or whatever. So that would easily biodegrade, of course. But they had done something to the tray and to each of the cups. They had covered the tray and each of the cups with plastic. So each time they made an offering, there were about 6 or 7 plastic bags going into the river. During the rainy season, the river would rise, and the plastic bags would get stuck on the branches of the trees. When the dry season, when the river went down, the trees were covered with all these colored plastic bags. So that is not love for a holy place. Raghunatha Goswami asks us also to have great attachment for the devotees. And he lists 3 kinds of devotees. So he says we should have great attachment for the residents of Vrindavan. Bhaktivedanta Thakur explains that these residents of Vrindavan means not those who live in a particular geographical location with their body, but those who are always meditating on Vrindavan. Which means that you could be here in Melbourne and be a resident of Vrindavan. And some of you may be familiar that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that some of the people who are geographically living in Radhakund are actually living in, anybody know what he said? Narakakund. They're living in hell. So it's not just where you put your body. You know, in the early days of ISKCON, we used to define advancement geographically. So if you slept in the temple, you were a very advanced devotee. If you slept across the street, you were a middle devotee. And if you slept, you know, a few kilometers away, then you were a beginner. But this is, we really did think like that. So just like Srila Prabhupada was asked, do you make advancement faster living in a temple? He said that depends whether your mind is on another subject matter. So we should have great love for those who are always in meditation on Vrindavan. Then, interestingly enough, also we should have great love for the devotees on this planet, which Bhaktivinoda defines as the serious practitioners of any tradition, even if they're not meditating on the Lord in Vrindavan. Not just respect, but great attachment. This is the principle that everyone who loves God should love everyone who loves God. Can you imagine what kind of world that would be? What do you think? Would that be a nice world? Then also, we're supposed to love the brahmanas who teach varnashram. So this is, of course, most spiritual leaders in the world are in this category. They are teaching people how to be moral in the world. They are teaching people God in relation to the world. What's very interesting about these three kinds of devotees that Raghunatha Goswami says we should have attachment for is that Bhaktivinoda in his commentary categorizes them as the advanced, or the uttama, the intermediate, or the majjhima, and the beginner, or the kanista. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just a little comparison of how these advanced, intermediate, and beginners are described in different shastras and by our acharyas. So in Manah-siksa, this is not all necessarily the same person. In other words, you could have somebody who's just starting to chant the holy name. They haven't made more of a commitment to the process, but their object of worship is Krishna in Vrindavan. And they may even have strong faith and knowledge in the scripture. They just haven't made that much of a commitment yet. Right? And you can have somebody who's got weak faith, but they've already taken initiation. Right? You could have people here, they have strong faith and knowledge in the scripture, they teach others, but they think they're the best devotee. So you could have all varieties of this. You follow? These are not, this is looking from a little different angle. And here Raghunatha Goswami is asking us to respect all levels of devotees. Okay, then attachment to the Gayatri mantra. Attachment to the mantra, not chanting ritualistically. Here in this first verse, Raghunatha Goswami is really getting us off the ritualistic platform. So we don't want to just chant as like, you really want to get into the mantra. And attachment for the holy name. Again, this means not chanting ritualistically, not chanting mechanically, but chanting with great attachment. After all, it's said in the Bhagavatam 2.8.4 and 2.8.5 that the holy name sits in the lotus of our heart on a seat of attachment. If we don't have attachment for the holy name, it won't really rest there. And this is our painting for this verse. This is Nandagram. And we've done this not only according to the verse, but also according to the descriptions of Nandagram from Ananda Vrindavan Champu of Kavikarnapur. Okay, so we can turn the lights back on for a minute. Something else I want to just put on the board. And so if we can just review. So where should we have attachment for? Anybody remember?
Holy name.
Okay, holy name. Okay, and? And mantras, Gayatri. Devotees, okay, and we had 3 levels of devotees, right? What were the 3 levels? Live in Vrindavan in meditation. What else? Not respect. Not respect. Great what? Attachment. Not just respect. Respect is lower. Okay. And also? Okay, where else do we have attachment for? Holy dump, holy places. And one more. Well, that's included in the one more. Well, it was the process of surrender to the lotus feet of the divine couple, which includes taking prasad. And reading the Shastra and all that. Okay. Process of surrender. Okay. So what I'd like us all to do just for 2-3 minutes is, and this is about, again, attachment. So I'd like you to either just on your own, or if you'd like with the person next to you, or 3 people, not more than 3, is to figure out what you're going to do in the next week to increase your attachment for one of these. What would you like to do in the next week that you know you can do and you will do that would increase your attachment for one of these? So you can either think of it by yourself, write it down by yourself, or you can talk with a neighbor. Now, for example, one of the things that I've come up with for myself is to increase my attachment to Guru, that when I say the prayers to Srila Prabhupada, that I will say them clearly and think about what they mean. So I won't just go, Namah Vishnu Padaya Masai Balism Devakna Swami right? But actually think about what am I saying? Namah Om Vishnu Padaya. What does that mean? And really meditate on the meaning and try to get a feeling of attachment for Srila Prabhupada, who's very dear to Krishna on earth, who's defeating impersonalism and voidism, who's a follower of Bhaktivedanta, who's preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya. So that's something I do anyway. I'm saying the pranam prayers to Srila Prabhupada many times a day, but I wanted to increase my quality. So that's just an example. So if you can think of something simple that you can do within the next week that would increase your attachment to any one of this. Okay, so just 2 minutes. So you can talk with a neighbor or you can just think about it yourself. So many people may think that this is it. All you have to have is love, right? We have people in every religion. You know, the Hindus will say, oh, I love Krishna so much, right? And the Christians will say, oh, I am loving Jesus so much. So people may think all you have to have, that's it. All you have to have is love and attachment. But Bhaktivedanta Thakur says that the word excessive attachment means that one has to also make an effort. He says one should not just rely on luck. One should not become complacent, thinking, well, if Krishna favors me, then I will get bhakti, and if he doesn't favor me, then I won't. So love and effort. Well, one may think that's all we need. Devotion and service, right? Devotional service. Okay, that's it. But there's something very important that Raghunatha Das Goswami says in this verse 1, and this is the theme of about 2/3 of Manah-siksa, and that is Sada Damvan Hitva. He says, always give up pride. You may say, oh, Urmila, this is a Paddhati, it's a step-by-step guide, and here we are in verse 1, being told to always give up pride. Always or completely give up pride. So if I have to always or completely give up pride in step 1, I'm finished. I cannot go on in this book. So please be peaceful. You will not have to give up your pride until Friday. when we get to verse 8. So why is it, if we don't completely give up pride until verse 8, that Raghunatha Goswami is telling us here in verse 1 to completely give up pride? So this can be understood as, even at the beginning, we should give up our pride as far as possible. Also, it can be understood as a little warning. Just like sometimes you go on a road where you have to pay a toll, correct? And you may tell somebody, be prepared on this road that you're going to pay a toll. So in a similar way, Raghunatha Goswami is saying, be prepared as you take this path step by step to perfection, that you are going to be giving up pride. And what we're going to be doing is giving up deeper and deeper layers and types of pride, more and more subtle types of this false vision of ourself. So why is it so important to give up pride? You know, as soon as there's pride, we cannot have any kind of love. Because when there's pride, there's a feeling of entitlement. Right? You come home and your spouse has made a 20-course meal and cleaned the whole house, and you think, well, of course, they're married to me. That's what they have to do. And we don't have any appreciation. Right? It's our feeling of entitlement that causes us to be offended and get angry at people. How dare you treat me like that? You could treat him like that, but not me. Don't you know who you're dealing with? And it damages our relationships. It also removes all of our joy because we don't have any gratitude when we have a sense of entitlement. So I always give this example. You know, if you take $50, you go to the store, you buy something, you find out it was only worth $5. How do you feel? Right? You have $50, you go to the store, you buy something, it was worth $50. How do you feel? At $50, you go to the store, you buy something, you find that it was worth $1,000. How do you feel? So our feeling of happiness is in direct inverse relation to our feeling of deservedness. We can't even have any joy in our life, and when we're prideful, of course, we can't receive any instruction. We can't listen to anybody because we think we already know everything. Okay, so this first verse is attachment. Listed all the areas of attachment, making an effort, and always giving up pride. So now we're going to start giving up this pride in various forms on the basis of this attachment. We're going to give up pride and go further because we have love for the process of surrender, because we have love for the holy place, because we have love for the Guru, because we have love for the devotees, because we have love for the holy name, because we have love for the sacred mantras. That's going to be our reason that we're going to be relinquishing our pride. Just like in a material relationship, because you have affection and love for somebody, you're willing to adjust your behavior to please them. Isn't that a fact? Don't we all do that? Yes? So that's going to be our motive in bhakti. It's a very different motive in other forms of yoga. In other forms of yoga, people's motive is their own enlightenment, their own freedom, their own spiritual experience. But here, our motive is spiritual attachment. So are we ready for step 2? Yeah. Okay. This is a verse Srila Prabhupada particularly liked to quote. Everyone together? Na dharmam shruti gana niruktam kila kuru praje radha krishna prachura paricharya mihatanu Sachi sunam nandishvara pati sutadve guruvaram mukunda prestatve smara paramajashram nanumanaha. Together. Indeed, do not perform any pious acts prescribed in the Vedas and supporting literature, or sinful acts forbidden in them. Staying here in Vraja, please perform profuse service to Sri Sri Radha Krishna. O mind, unceasingly remember the son of Shachi as the son of Nanda Maharaj, and Sri Guru as the dearest servant of Lord Mukunda. Well, don't do dharma or adharma. What else is left? That's all there is. How to understand this instruction? One way we can understand it is by looking at Bhagavad Gita 6.3, that dharma is for the beginner and freedom from dharma is for the graduate. Another way to look at this is from Bhagavad Gita 4.7, in terms of our identity. Here, Krishna talks about 3 kinds of action, not 2. Karma, vikarma, akarma. Karma is like dharma, vikarma is like adharma, and akarma is something else. Here, Raghunatha Goswami is saying, okay, we're giving up pride. Here's the first way we're giving up pride. Most of us motivate ourselves in this world by dharma. I am a very good person. I earn the money because I am a good husband. I cook the meals because I am a good mother. I take care of my parents because I am a good son. I chant Hare Krishna because I am a good disciple. I am a very good person. Who's that about? It's about myself, right? That's not love. If a man comes home from work and his wife said, dear, I cooked dinner tonight because I am a good wife. Now, my dear friends, if the only thing you remember from these 3 days is this point, this is a real life-changing point. The source of our angst and anxiety in our relationships is that we're basing them on an identity of I'm a good such and such. Just recently, one friend wrote to me, oh, my children did this and that. It must mean I'm not a good mother. If what's motivating me to act is I am a good son, then I am dependent on my parents agreeing that I'm a good son in order for me to feel happy. Will our parents always agree that we are a good son or daughter? No. Will we always agree that we're a good son or daughter? No. And when our parents or our friends or other family members, you're really not such a good son, you're really not such a good daughter, we become hurt. What do you mean? I'm sacrificing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Then there's the adharmic identity. That is, I'm a bad person. I'm a rebel, I'm a nonconformist. I don't have to follow the rules, I don't have to pay my taxes, I can do whatever I like. So sometimes people are motivated by that kind of identity, which is also a kind of pride. So what are we going to do instead? Because both dharma and adharma entangle us in the law of karma. They are both full of pride, and they both cause us difficulty in this world. So instead, we want to come to this platform of akarma. I call this the secret agent principle. So why secret agent? Because you will look generally like a dharmic person, but the motive will be different. So we all know how to do this. It's actually a very simple thing. So let's say I'm talking to you, but maybe I'm not really caring so much about you. Maybe I want to impress you. Have we all done that? Have we all dealt with one person, but we're really trying to impress another person? Sometimes we do this with the Lord. We're worshiping Krishna. See how I'm worshiping Krishna? See? See how I am chanting? Are you watching? Right? So we want to reverse that. Instead of dealing with Krishna to impress other humans, we want to deal with humans to impress Krishna. So simply, I'm going to deal with my husband, my wife, my mother, my father, my son, my daughter, my boss, my employee, my other, my brahmachari friend, whatever, just to make Krishna smile. Not so I can be a good brahmachari, and not so I can be a good this or that, but just to make Krishna smile. When we act on that platform, then we are not dependent on other people or even our own assessment of our behavior in order to feel good about ourselves and in order to be happy with others. So this is the first giving up of pride, to do everything simply to make Krishna smile, not on the platform of a false dharmic or adharmic identity. Because you could see, you could have an attachment to all these, but still have a false identity, couldn't you? Isn't it a fact? Could you be attached to Guru and the holy name and the devotees and the holy places, but still think, I'm a very good person, or I'm a rebel? So this is, we're coming, as we said, this is a Paddhati. It keeps going deeper. So, okay, you have this attachment, you're making an effort, you're working at giving up pride. Change your identity. Jivara Swarupaya Krishna Nichidasa. I am simply acting to please the Lord, not to be a good or a rebel in this world. Then remember we talked about having love for the process of surrender to the lotus feet of the divine couple. So that implies a one-pointedness to the divine couple. And you might have mentioned that, you might have noticed that Lord Chaitanya was not mentioned in verse 1. And if you know anything about Raghunatha Goswami, you might have thought that was peculiar because Raghunatha Goswami was very attached to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Here he says we should see the son of Mother Sachi as being the same as the son of Nanda Maharaj. Now, I'm not sure why he mentions Lord Chaitanya's mother and Krishna's father, but the point is that whenever we see Lord Chaitanya, we say, oh, here is Krishna. In fact, this is how we should see all of the incarnations of the Lord. You may know that in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada writes that we should be attached to any form of the Lord. He says that one should fix one's mind on any form of the Lord. But in 1865 of the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says, do not divert your attention to any form other than Krishna. Well, how do you fix your mind on Lord Ramachandra if you can't divert your attention to him? And the point is to see all the forms of the Lord as Krishna. There's my Krishna, maybe. Right now he's a little angry, it looks like. But we see all the different incarnations like that. So because this verse talks about Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, in our painting we wanted to show Krishna and Nanda Maharaj. Maybe at least we can turn off the light for a minute for this so you can see this clearly. You just turn off the light just for a minute for the painting. There we go. There's Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. Now also in this verse, Raghunatha Goswami talks about Radha Krishna. So we wanted to have Radharani in the painting. So think about what pastime shows Radha Krishna and Nanda Maharaj. And we chose this particular Leela from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. And we've done in the book here. Can you give me the book back for a minute? So all of our paintings, as I said, are taken not only from the verses, but also from various scriptures. So in the back of the book, we have the verses and the stories behind each of the paintings. Okay, you can turn the lights back on. So then he says we should see the Guru as the best friend of the Lord, Mukunda Presta. So what verse do we chant in the mornings like this, that we see the Guru as the best friend of the Lord? Sakshat Hari Tvainasamasta Shastu, Uktastata Vyakta Eva Sabi, Kintu Prabhurya Priya Evatastya. So this point is very important in verse 2. Our one-pointedness is to Krishna. Guru, we don't worship Gurus separately from Krishna. We don't worship the different incarnations of Krishna separately from Krishna. We're one-pointed to Krishna, and our worship of Lord Chaitanya and the other incarnations is part of our one-pointedness to Krishna. Our worship of Guru is as the friend of the Lord. We don't see the Guru as separate. Like Prabhupada would say, Guru is not your friend, only Krishna is your friend, but because the Guru is giving you Krishna, therefore the Guru is your friend. Okay, we ready for the next step? Everybody ready? Next step? Yes?
Well, what's the reason for Lord Chaitanya not being mentioned in the first verse? And is it possibly because Lord Chaitanya was his Guru? And so, therefore, it was superfluous to mention him.
I think that's a very brilliant insight, that it was superfluous to mention Lord Chaitanya in the first verse because he was Raghunatha Goswami's Guru. And also because he's included in this one-pointed for the divine couple. So both. When you say one-pointed for the divine couple, to approach the divine couple without approaching Lord Chaitanya is going to be very difficult. We'll say it's maybe theoretically possible for somebody by some prepacity. But generally, to approach the divine couple without Mahaprabhu is going to be impossible. So included. And also Mahaprabhu as Guru. But again, this is a Paddhati. So each step is going deeper and further. Okay, how are you going to have one-pointedness to the divine couple? By seeing Lord Chaitanya as Krishna and by seeing Guru as the friend. And that way you have one-pointedness, and yet you have this relationship with Mahaprabhu and with Guru. Excellent, thank you for bringing that up. I should mention that even with 3 nights at 1.5 hours each, we're not going to be able to go super deep. So the most I've taught this is in 30 hours in Slovenia, and the least I teach it is in 1.5 hours. Well, sometimes for a Sunday feast I have a shorter half-an-hour version where we don't chant the verses and so forth. But we really are just touching some of the main points. Okay, we ready to chant verse 3? Yadi cheravasam raja bhuvi saragam pratijanur yuva dvandvam tachet paricharitum aradabilase swarupam srirupam saganam ihatasya grajamapi Sputam premna nityam smaranamatada tvam shrinumanaha. Listen, O mind, if you desire in every birth to reside in the land of Raja with loving attachment and to serve the youthful couple, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, in close proximity, then clearly remember and offer obeisances to Sri Swarupa, to Sri Rupa and his associates in Vrindavan, and to Sri Rupa's elder brother, Sri Sanatana. So we notice this word pratijanur. And here again is a giving up of pride, birth after birth. This reminds us of Queen Rukmini, who wrote a letter to Krishna, and she said, "My dear Lord, if I cannot attain you in this life by my austerities, I am willing to wait life after life." So it's a measure of pride that we want Krishna prema, we want enlightenment now, right? I've chanted so many mantras, I've given so much money to Krishna, I've distributed so many books, I've lit so many sticks of incense, where's my prema? So why is this prideful? This means we don't understand that what reason we're in conditioned life is that we are offenders. We have turned our face from the Lord, and although he is our only beloved, we are still flirting with illusion. Now, we've all had someone offend us, yeah, right? Everybody here, you've had somebody offend you in your life, right? Maybe badly, maybe more than one person. So who decides when the relationship is restored? The offender or the offended? The offended, isn't it? So who gets to decide when our relationship with Krishna is restored? It's Krishna, isn't it? But the only way we can understand this is if we understand I am the offender. Yeah? And this requires a deeper level of giving up pride. And you can see again how, you can have attachment to all of these. You could be making an effort. You could give up a false identity, just identify as Krishna's servant, have the right relationship with Lord Chaitanya and Guru, but still think, hey, I want my Krishna prema now. So this is a deeper level of giving up pride. We think about Mukunda, who was told by Lord Chaitanya, because you associate with the impersonalists, it's going to be 10 million births before I see you. And what was his response? What was Mukunda's response? He started dancing. He said, I'll finally get to see the Lord after 10 million births. At which point, immediately, Lord Chaitanya said what? Bring him in. Right? That was the proper attitude. This patience, that I am going to go on serving Krishna, and whenever Krishna will bring me back, I am willing to wait for that, even many births. Then he says that we should follow Swarup Damodar, Rupa, and Sanatan. We've added Raghunatha Swami to this picture. Their books are full of the jewels of how to attain spontaneous love to Krishna in Vrindavan. Now, what do we mean by spontaneous love? Regulative bhakti, one is still in a covering of illusion to a great extent, and one is following the scriptures primarily out of an intellectual conviction. I am following this process of bhakti because I believe that is the truth. Now, a person in regulative bhakti has some spiritual experiences, they have some taste, they have some attachment, but the primary motivation is a philosophical, intellectual, and logical conviction. In spontaneous bhakti, the primary motivation is one's attachment to Krishna. And we can think of this just like I met a gentleman once in South India who wanted to get married but hadn't yet found somebody. And he said, well, she's got to speak Tamil, she's got to make good idlis. You know, and I came back a couple years later and he had married a Bengali. I said, what is this? He said, oh, but I love her so much. So this is what it's like. In the beginning, one may worship Krishna. I'm worshiping Krishna because it says here in the scriptures that Krishna is God, and the philosophy makes so much sense to me. And after a while, it's just, I love Krishna. I don't care. You can bring some statement that Shiva is God or whatever, but I just love Krishna. Okay? So why particularly Swarup Damodar? If we want to attain to this platform of spontaneous devotion, why Swarup Damodar? Because Lord Chaitanya gave the service of teaching the process of attaining spontaneous devotion to Swarup Damodar. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the seminar, this Manah-siksa is very important for establishing that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Srila Prabhupada actually taught this process, and not only regulative devotion. Swarup Damodar taught two methods of attaining spontaneous devotion and practicing spontaneous devotion. One was to Vikeshwara Pandit, and one was to Raghunatha Goswami. The process taught to Vikeshwara Pandit was called by Bhaktivedanta an external path. The one taught to Raghunatha Goswami, which is explained in Sri Manah-siksa, is an internal path. Very briefly, the difference is that the external path involves many, many hours a day of chanting many mantras to all of the associates of Mahaprabhu and Krishna with corresponding meditations and worship. It would be very hard to follow the external path if you were living and working in the world or you were a preacher. The external path, as written down by the disciple and grand disciple of Vikeshwara Pandit, does not discuss qualifications for the practitioner. Remember we talked about how these first three verses of Manah-siksa really talk about the qualifications? You have to have attachment, you have to make an endeavor, you have to give up pride, you have to have the right identity, the right relationship with Lord Chaitanya, the right relationship with Guru, be patient life after life, follow Swarup Damodar, Rupa and Sanatan. No qualifications are listed in the external path. Presumably, the external path would have to be taught by a very honest and qualified guru who would assess your qualifications. But it's not listed there. And there's no list in the external path manuals of the changes in consciousness that happen. We've already seen some changes here in these first three verses of Manah-siksa, haven't we? Going through attachment, going through effort, going through identity, going through patience. And you'll see tomorrow, those of you who are courageous enough to come tomorrow when we go through the obstacles, how we go even deeper into these changes of consciousness. That's not mentioned in the manuals of the external path. Now, the external path is a bona fide path. But because it lists only behaviors, it can be imitated and it can be perverted, which is exactly what started to happen, especially in the time of Bhaktisiddhanta. This internal path, on the other hand, cannot be imitated. I mean, you can lie. You can say, yes, I am patient birth after birth. But you can't imitate that. It's a state of consciousness. Also, this internal path talks about qualifications. The internal path does not give specific behaviors that are different from that of regulative bhakti. So it's basically invisible. Somebody following the internal path of spontaneous devotion looks externally just like someone following the path of regulative devotion. But Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, in his logo, shows that he did indeed put emphasis both on regulative and spontaneous devotion. This logo was designed by Bhaktisiddhanta himself, and Srila Prabhupada put this on the gates of our temple in ISKCON Mayapur. We had to redraw this because there weren't any good resolution copies from the harmonist. Instead of the Bangla script, we have Roman letters with Sanskrit. But here you can see in the inside, it's the holy name. On the top is Lord Chaitanya. The bottom, Guru Gaudiya, meaning the Sangha. And on this side, this whole side of the logo is about regulated bhakti, and this whole side of the logo about spontaneous bhakti. In our chapter here in Manah-siksa, we show how Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati's instructions on attaining spontaneous bhakti are exactly the same as that which is in Manah-siksa. However, if a person thinks that the only path of spontaneous devotion is the external path, they're not going to see that in Bhaktisiddhanta's movement or in Srila Prabhupada's movement. And therefore, they will erroneously decide that it's not here. They'll say, I don't see a bunch of people living like Babaji's and meditating on the apricot lila, at Radhakund for 4 hours a day. So I guess there's no spontaneous devotion here, and I guess I have to leave to find it someplace else. So it's here, but it's here according to the path of Manah-siksa. Those on this internal path externally are doing all the same behaviors as those in regulative bhakti, while inside their relationship with Krishna is blooming like a bud turning into a flower. And this is a relationship with Krishna as I want to be Krishna's servant, like here we have Raktak and Patrak, Krishna's chief servants, or I want to be Krishna's friend, who are Krishna's chief friends. Subal, Sudama, who else? Sridham, Madhu Mangal, everybody's favorite, right? Ujjwala. Or I want to love Krishna as my son, like here we have Rohini and Balaram, Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj. Or a romantic relationship with Krishna. And if we can turn off the light for this painting, this is our painting for, can we get the light? This is our painting for this verse. So this is the beginning awakening of an attachment for Krishna. Because it's just the beginning, Krishna and Balaram are seen from behind. The cows are kicking up a lot of dust, because this is the time one just has some intuitive idea. Maybe I want to be Krishna's friend. Maybe I want to see Krishna as my son. And here we have the devotees, the chief devotees in all of the rasas. So you might say, well, Urmila, if this is discussed in verse 3, sa ragam, but I don't know what my relationship is with Krishna. Can I go on in Manah-siksa? And the answer is, if you want to have a relationship with Krishna awaken, then certainly you can go on. So how many of you would like to discover your eternal relationship with Krishna? Okay, so you can go on in Manah-siksa. So you can turn the lights back on. So tomorrow, we're going to be going through the obstacles on the path. It's going to be going from subtle, from gross to more subtle, to more subtle, to more subtle. Tomorrow's class, Raghunatha Goswami stops being the nice guy with his mind. Do you remember in verse 1 how he talked to his mind? Anybody remember back from verse 1? Oh, dear brother, holding your feet, I beseech you with sweet words. He's not hitting his mind with the stick in verse 1. Tomorrow, he's going to get out the stick. And I'm just going to warn you that tomorrow's verses are heart surgery. It's sweet, it's wonderful. Everything that is false and nasty in our lives will be removed, and we'll just be left with happiness. But it is a little heavy, so if you didn't sign up for that, please skip tomorrow's class. You can always pretend that you have a very important appointment with the Queen of England. But it is very, very exciting what we'll be doing tomorrow. Very exciting, very real. If you would like to come to authenticity in your life, and you'd really like to go forward in spiritual life, so these are the verses where we will do it. And then the next day are the steps in perfection. So again, we come to a lot of sweetness. So thank you very much. And there will be artik now for the deities. If anybody wants to get a book, we have, as I say, we just have these copies here. That's all we have. And you're welcome to pick them up. They're $15 because we were able to bring them here from India. And if you'd like, I can sign one of them for you also. Raghunatha Das Goswami ki. Bhaktivedanta Thakur ki. Srila Prabhupada ki.